I want anyone who's been through what I've been through or anything similar to know this. It's time to take your power back. It's time to find your voice. It's time to start being happy and living again. This isn't about them. It isn't about anyone else. This is about you. Finding your voice, keeping it, and never letting anyone silence it again. It's about reclaiming your power, loving yourself, and living your life to the fullest. Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel. I am Indigo, and this is All Things Indigo. So I started off telling my story, my life story, about the trials and the traumas I've been through. And um, yeah, so this is the part about my sister. So I grew up with an older sister. She was only about a year older than me, two, I believe a year. I don't know. It was a lot of deceit going on in my mouth and my family. But anywho, so I grew up with an older sister. I can remember back, I'm going back to 5 because I have to paint a picture for you guys of the person that I grew up with. Um, we were close. Me and my sister was close. For the most part, it was just me and her because we were always together. Because well, we weren't always together. Let me just take that back, and I'll show you why. But we were, for the most part, when we were 5, we were together. Um, uh, one of the places we lived at, we were mostly left alone. So of course we played together, things like that. Da 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 da. She was my sister. Moving on to the next place, uh, we were together for the most part, but I don't remember always being together. Um, I really noticed that we were separated, and I don't know how. I'm assuming that she would be in another room and I would be in another room, things like that. And then there was times we played together, but then there was times I remember going to the after school center and not seeing my sister there, and also like going to school and not even meeting up with my sister there, or I mean, seeing her there or after school. Well, sometimes I did see her there because I would that's when I would roam and go to her class. But anyway, I'm talking about, so there was an incident that happened in that next place that we lived, that we were left alone. My mother was somewhere probably getting high. um Uncles were somewhere, and I believe my grandmother was at work because she was working. And we were supposed to go to school, so my sister got me up. Um, I don't know if we ate, not sure, but I remember wearing a green I don't want to grow up, I'm a Toys R Us kid sweatshirt and a purple pinstripe skirt, right? That's what she put me on, and she took me to school. Now, it's crazy because it's like, if you see kids go, I don't even know what time it was. Like, first of all, don't know what time it was. Don't know, I don't remember much, but going into school and no one said boo hoo. Like, where's your parents? Like, and I'm not talking about like 6, we had to be like 6 or 7, but nobody said boo hoo. Went on to school. Um, I'm not, like I said, my memory, because of the abuse I suffered, getting hit inside my head and things like that. I don't remember a lot, but I do remember that. I don't remember like what happened when we came home, whatever, but I do remember that. And I was always forever indebted to her because I remember that. And I just felt like she was my protector then, she took care of me. That's what I felt, right? Years go by. We We moved into another place. There, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. We were still in elementary school. I did my own thing. Like I said, she had started having a group of friends. She was like in third grade, fourth grade, or something like that. Maybe let me see. I was in first, so she was in second grade, second or third, not sure. Like I said, but I remember being in first grade, and I remember not um wanting to stay in class. I believe it probably was because when I didn't know the work, I would get up and walk out. Because when it came to reading and spelling, I would stay. I love reading and spelling. I love spelling tests. I was entered in the spelling bee, things like that, whatever have you. But like I said, I remember, just not always being with my sister. Fast forward more to, I want to say, the ages of 12 and 13. Um, like I said, she had her friends outside of school and things like that. Excuse me. Uh, she hung out with some friends. I hung out with some friends. I want to say 12. She hung out with some friends, some different friends. I hung out with different friends. We weren't really seeing each other like that. Like I said, we started becoming separated. Um, And then there was one day I started hanging out with her and her friends. Reason being is my neighbor knew some girl, some older girl. She was an older girl herself. And my sister started hanging out with her. I had my little friends, so I was hanging out with them. So and then I don't know how it happened, but I ended up hanging with my sister. Um, I ended up hanging with my sister, uh, and that's how I met my first son's father, my very first son's father, things like that. Da, 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 da. So, you know, that's when I became sexually active. I believe that's when my sister became sexually active. I believe, yeah. We're still young, like I said, probably like 12, 13, 13, 14, I believe, around that age. And, she began to, like I said, hanging out with older girls, began to be a little bit more faster speed, whatever the case may be. Um, I just remember, yeah, like I said, going separate ways. Had my son. I started hanging out back with the friends I was hanging out with. We're all over the place. She's all over the place. We, we have we did we went to the shelter together around we were about 15, 16. Yeah, 15, 16, or 16, 17. Probably 15, 16, because yeah, we both had sons by then, and we was trying, but we left. We came back to my mother's house, and we would have our boyfriends over and things like that. Anywho, it came down to when we finally did. She got her apartment before me, um, and she got her apartment before me. I ended up getting my apartment sometime down the road, but I noticed we weren't as close as we used to be. Um, she suffered abuse as well by the hands of my mother. Um, we both resented my mother. Um, long story, I got down the line. I was in and out. Like I said, I was in and out of shelter. So there was a time when I did stay with my sister, and she basically wanted me out because it was too much noise for her. Even though my kids and her kids were playing, and she wanted me out. She wanted me to leave with my kids because it was too much noise. It was the afternoon. She wanted to sleep, but I digress about that. Just making sure my mic is still on. We ended up, like once I got my place and everything, we ended up, hanging out because I've always forgiven her. She's always like been, not always, she started being a little bit more mean, you know, um, and I've always forgiven her. Um, she would drink and just be somebody else. That's what it was. She would start drinking and be somebody else. I remember one time when I had a couple of girlfriends that I met from throughout the shelter. system that were, pretty decent people. We went out one day, and we went to the city and had a wonderful time. She was drinking at the movie, snuck in. By the time we got to on the train to go back home, she was cutting up really bad, and I moved to a different cart, and she stayed, whatever the case may be. But then she came, and then act like everything was okay. Mind you, at that time, my kids were spending the night at her house. My grandmother had watched the kids, and so when we got there, she acted like everything was okay, but it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, I believe, and she started an argument with me, and we argued till like 4 o'clock in the morning. She started banging on everything and being loud, and my grandmother's like, "What are you doing? Like, she got to go home." She made me take my kids home 4 o'clock in the morning, and that's the beginning of her being trifling. That's the beginning of her doing nasty things and just being a nasty person to me. And of course, I forgave her and things like that. My grandmother, she used to have her own place, but she had lost her place. And since my sister lived like 2, 3 blocks away from her, that's where she landed at first and everything. So that's why she was there. My sister only had a 1 bedroom, which is crazy. I don't know why, because she had a son and a daughter. But anywho, so yeah, she landed there first and everything. My grandmother and everything like that. So my grandmother's upset with her, whatever the case may be. So we hadn't spoke for weeks, and then one day I needed to call to speak to my grandmother, and she wouldn't give my grandmother the phone. She would not give my grandmother the phone. She didn't let my grandmother know I was on the phone or anything, and I was livid. But that's the trifleness. That's how nasty she was when she was mad at you. She would do spiteful shit, like stuff like that. Um she would do spiteful stuff like that. And yeah, so, and my grandmother found out after that. She was very upset, and my sister moved some man in the house. He would take furniture off the streets, find it, and and my sister was very gullible when it came to men. She was very gullible, kind of like my mother. um Sorry, I did. But yeah, so that was some of the stuff she would do. And I remember, running into a childhood friend, and he went to a I remember he went to a party that I invited him to as well, because yeah, we were all childhood friends. I used to stick up for him. I hated bullies, and people used to bully him. So I stuck up. I would stick up for him. And I tried to hook him and my sister up, but my sister, he was like, she was difficult, whatever the case may be. So whatever the case may be, um, you know, because I was friendly at that time. I was not friendly, like I was, social. Let me just say that. And she was sitting in his car. He was going to drive her home, everything like that. And I look over at her, and she's looking at me like, because he gave me a hug, but whatever. Anywho, so that was one incident, and then there was another incident where uh, I had a get together. Like, this is after my husband, after me and him separated. Like, this was years. No, this was a couple of years after me and him separated. It was New Year's Eve. She was dating some other man, and he was on drugs, and she would like there was one night they had an argument. We were all together, and they came to back to my house, my apartment, and they had an argument, and he went storming out. She went storming out behind him. Now, mind you, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what you gonna do with the kids? She told him, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Like, like what? So I'm like, girl, like, you need to get a hold of yourself. You can't just leave your kids because you running behind some man. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is freaking ridiculous. Like, so anywho, after that, after the fact, a while goes past, she finally gets rid of him because she realized he's no good. She ended up meeting another man. She got taken for her money. Let me just say that. She got taken for her money at that time. And she left him alone. But during these times, mind you, we're in and out. She's speaking to me off and on. Like, she would stop speaking to me here and there. That's what she started doing. Then there was a time I had a Halloween party and stuff. See, once when me and my husband separated, I just wanted to have fun and feel free. So I was having like little get-togethers, dinners, parties. I didn't care if I was fitting the bill. I just wanted people around me. I just wanted to feel some happiness. So I had a Halloween party. She had her little friend, her boyfriend at the time. He came with her, everything like that. Now I ended up falling asleep early, and she stole all the alcohol. She stole all the alcohol, hundreds of dollars of alcohol and everything. And I was just like, why did you take it? She was like, because I didn't want nobody else to take it. Everybody was gone before you. So, so it was just like, what? Like, okay. So I'm just like, okay, so now you can bring it back. But of course she didn't have it or whatever the case may be. So she did pay me back. She stopped speaking to me, for like a month. And stuff like that. And oh yeah, she stopped speaking to me for like a month, right? But in that midst of that, she called me one time, 3 o'clock in the morning, intoxicated, and was like, um, call that dude and tell him, she wanted me to call her boyfriend and tell him to come and get his stuff. And I'm just like, it's like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I'm like, we haven't been speaking. You stole from me. And you want me to do what exactly? You want me to call your boyfriend? I hung up the phone and went to sleep because I'm like, child, what? So that's the type of stuff that she would do to me. And yeah. There was the last well, like I said, it was off and on. She would do that. She would do that. So when she moved into they wanted another place, right? We had stopped speaking for I don't even know what, but we end up starting back speaking because I will always forgive, right? And she needed help moving from that place to another place. My sons went to help her move. Her son didn't even help her move. Her son wouldn't even help. She hired two movers and then had my boys. So they basically did all the work. And she paid them $75 together. $75 together, not a piece, for moving all her stuff to a whole nother house. They had to make trips. My son rented the truck because nobody else could drive. My son rented the truck, the U-Haul truck. So she started speaking to me for that, right? And then she stopped speaking to me again. After that, she stopped speaking to me again. So then again, so my niece actually had my nephew by then, who I was in love with. I love that little boy. First of all, I love my niece and my nephew dearly, but I love that little boy so much. He's a joy. He's like a beam of light, joy that the family needed or something. And I would babysit him a lot and everything like that. Um, and then after that thing happened in 2020, 2020, and everything, stuff cut down a little bit, whatever, whatever. I still was babysitting him, but then, for a while I stopped. So, what happened? Yeah, we were speaking on that terms, I believe. And then after I stopped babysitting him, she stopped speaking to me again. And not only that, she don't she no longer allows for me or my children who love the baby daily to have visitation with him. So she cut him off from us as well, and I couldn't tell you why, but he's 5 now. It's been about 3 years since I've last seen him, like physically. Yeah. Besides pictures or something like that. So, yeah. And you know, the crazy thing is usually I would wave the white flag first, but this time my peace was just much, much more important. When I started, realizing that I keep letting people just step on me, spit on me, and it was okay because I'm always going to forgive. You understand what I'm saying? I had this thing where I would just forgive you, you know, and things like that. But this time I said, I love that baby. I love that child dearly. But I said, one day he's going to find us. Because you know what's crazy? He never wanted to leave. Every single time, like it was time for him to be picked up from here, he cried. He never wanted to leave because there was life here. There was life here. There's no life. It's just her there. He has no, friends. Now he's in school, so yeah, he has friends now. But there was no life there. So he never wanted to leave because we always made it a party. It was always a fun house for him. So yeah. And I just had to say, enough is enough. I love that child dearly, but I'm not gonna keep kissing your behind, you know, so you would be, feel at ease to talk to me again or give me, not hinder people from me, hinder me from being in people's lives, like she did with my grandmother and like she did with my nephew, my great nephew. And it's okay. And I said, like I said, one day he'll find me. He'll find us. He's never gonna forget us because he loved us that much, as just as much as we loved him. So yeah. But I have to go. My battery is dying. I don't know. But thank you guys. Until next time, blessings.